Patty, and welcome to the second whiteboard teaching of the semester. My name is Matt Bergman, and today we are going to learn how to grow your social media presence through our learning objectives. Now, what I'm going to try to do is a little ambitious. I'm going to try and melt together what we see on the shared screen here with what I'm doing on the whiteboard. I've never done it before, just a disclaimer before we get going. So, without further ado, background on this. As we all know, the presence of social media has exploded, particularly in the last 15 years, decade really. And social media is used for a plethora of different things. Today's presentation is more focused on how social media is helping people to expand brand, to earn money, whether this be for professional use, fundraising, community building, etc. There's a lot of things that social media has the power to do that otherwise would take either a very long time or we just simply didn't have the power to do before this introduction of what really is a worldwide phenomenon. Now, when we talk about social media presence, presence can be sort of a vague term. The idea of social media presence is that when I log on to any social media, right, and I see the name, right, I know what I know what I'm getting. We're going to use Red Bull as the example during this presentation. And the reason why is because their social media presence is instant, it's fast, and you know exactly why they're on your screen and what's going to come from the post. This is through a couple very key ideas: public facing imagery, so the text, videos, the images that Red Bull has throughout their whole social media brand, and then their posts and their replies and their other interactions. So everything that Red Bull does is in this kind of like big circle. This is all their text, post, media, right? It's all in this big circle and it narrows itself down into this nucleus. I can't write that small. What Red Bull is about. So we have all of this that narrows itself into this, and this is presence. This is the social media presence that we all know Red Bull for. It comes from all of this, if that makes sense. So we have this big bubble of everything Red Bull does that coalesces and condenses into everything that Red Bull is and wants to be. That is present. That's how you build things like name brand. That's why Louis Vuitton, Gucci, Nike, Adidas, you hear those things, you know immediately in your head what they mean, what they're for. I chose Red Bull because it's a different example. It's maybe a little bit out of the box example that gets the point across. Now, what they do, which is great, there's a posting schedule. People know when Red Bull's going to post big events, big sporting events, big extreme sports events, things like that. They tag relevant customers and businesses, so who they're working with, who they want to reach, things like, sports leagues, different brands that, supply their extreme sports, cars and planes and such. And they have content series to engage followers. So Formula One, soccer, extreme sports, like I've said, all of these things engage people to see the Red Bull vision of how they want to work. Now, the method of change it can be all three. It can be invention, it can be innovation, it can be diffusion. I have chosen diffusion for my method of change for this simply because social media, when it starts out, I'm going to switch here to this. Social media, when it starts out, is adopted early in 2010 through the creation of Instagram. And Instagram starts out as this small, we can talk about the bell curve, right? There's a small amount of early adopters that we've discussed in class and that we've really kind of hammered on, that there's about a 2.5% group of people that get in early and that create sort of the precedent for social media. And then as it goes along the curve, obviously more people get in. 2010 is the start of the social media kind of boom when it comes to this. And it diffuses itself along the years throughout time. So as we've learned more about what social media can do, as we've discussed what diffusion can do, social media and diffusion really come together well because what Red Bull has done and what a lot of other brands have done is they've taken the lessons learned from early Instagram adopters and they have molded that into what they want to do for their brand. This can be for anybody. We're talking about big brands. We're talking about big time companies like Red Bull and Nike and Adidas. This can happen to you. This can happen to anybody. You talk about people like Livy Dunn, right? Livy Dunn has a humongous following, but it didn't just happen. She didn't just create an Instagram, boom, 2 million followers. She had to create a presence. She had to build a brand. You can say the same thing with guys like Mr. Beast. I mean, another example. I'm not a Mr. Beast fan myself, but Mr. Beast has millions of followers on his Instagram and YouTube combined, and he did that through content series. He did that through engagement because they took some of the stuff that the early adopters found out about social media and they took it into what they wanted to do. They built their own personal brand, personal style of social media, as I say here. So, why I chose Red Bull and why I think it's important to know about Red Bull to learn how to grow your brand is that the brand takes precedent over the actual product. So, when you're building your social media presence, when you're going in to build this and to create a presence. What you want to do and what Red Bull does so great, and the diffusion part of this that's really important, is Red Bull does not talk about their product. Red Bull tells a story. These texts and the posts and the media that they post, they don't talk about the drink Red Bull. They talk about a guy jumping out of a plane and doing 28 backflips before he lands the ground. A guy on a motorcycle doing a million different tricks through the air, and it's exciting. It's in your face. It's loud, and you understand kind of what Red Bull's about without even looking at the product. In the same way, your social media brand has to do the same. You can't get out on Instagram or on wherever you're going and tell people, hi, my name's Matt. I play baseball here at A&M, and I really like my dog. Everybody can do that. That's boring. You have to tell a story. You have to create a presence in terms of when people open up your Instagram, they're going to know what they're going to get, whether that's, through a million different avenues. But the key and the biggest takeaway from this is the brand takes precedence over the product. That's the big thing about social media. If you can create the look, the product or the message or the end goal comes later. You just have to create the look. So, got a couple pictures here of Red Bull Media. We got a guy next to a helicopter. We have a plane. I have no idea how it's that low to the ground. We have kind of all of their sports and some of their activities down in the right-hand corner with the Formula One car and the astronaut-looking guy that jumped out of basically the top of the earth. Then we have a guy on skis. Red Bull is an energy drink company. Red Bull doesn't have, I mean, Red Bull is to give you caffeine. But through this adrenaline junkie sort of brand that they've created for themselves, you understand that the drink is great because there's guys doing backflips in Red Bull gear. That is what they mean by presence. When you see Red Bull on the bottom of a plane, you know what that plane is going to do. And it's not going to fly the straight vanilla route. No, it's going to take some tips and turns and some spins. It's going to really take you for a ride. So, as I've been saying, Red Bull has used their presence to tell a story, much in the same way that you can use your story to create your presence. So, if we're to take this a step further, the three forms of social media at this are best: Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter. Why? Because of the visuals. Other social medias are fine, but Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter are the best because of the pictures and the videos that are associated with these platforms. Instagram is great for social media building because you can go pictures, you can go short videos, you can go long videos, you have stories. There's a million different ways to affect an audience. TikTok is much the same, quick 5 to 10 second stories because you have to figure out how to reach your product or reach your audience, in a short amount of time. And these three seem to be the best three for getting that out there. Twitter is a little more text heavy with kind of video supplementing it. TikTok and Instagram are more video heavy with the captions supplementing it. So there is a world for both types of people. If people are more kind of, better with their words rather than with their video, there is a way to do that. Now, I talked about Instagram launching in 2010. From 2010, we'll write this down here, from 2010 to 2020, Instagram basically is only pictures, essentially. October of 2020, Instagram introduces Reels, which are like I said, 5 to 10 second videos that allow you to reach your audience in a better way. So, for example, to kind of hammer this point home, before 2020, Instagram is just text and posts, which are fine. But now with the media, you can really narrow this down and really get to the nucleus of what you want to get to. Without the media, you can maybe get here, you can maybe get to this part, but you don't really like narrow it down and really hammer the point home that you want to hammer home. That is the beauty of the 5 to 10 second videos that Instagram introduced. And that is why TikTok boomed shortly thereafter. TikTok, especially during COVID to now, TikTok became kind of like the video hub for social media brand exposure and that intense kind of in your face, grow the presence sort of deal. So I won't get to the conclusion just quite yet. I want to talk to you a little bit just about how to actually do this. So now that we have all the background, now that we have kind of the nuts and bolts, took us a little while to get there, but that's all right. Appreciate you sticking with me. Here is how you do it as just a normal, not Red Bull. You know, we're not Red Bull, we're just people. First thing you got to do, first of all, you got to understand that you want to do it. So if you want to do it, great. Then step one, figure out your story. Figure out what makes you great. That's number one. Figure that out. Red Bull figured out that what makes them great is being adrenaline junkies. They figured that out. So they said, all right, step two, how do we convey this? It's really easy to talk the talk and say, all right, we're adrenaline junkies. That's what we do, and that's who we are. But the point of the matter is that is only going to take you so far. You have to convey this through other ways. So this is the media. This is the story. This is the big picture ideas that get people interested in what you do. So for example, for me, for myself, like I said, A&M baseball player, what I would do is I'd probably lean into the journey that I took to get here. And I would tell stories about some of the you know, my first school going bankrupt, non-existent, my second school not playing a year, finding a school in Connecticut that I loved to death. And I'd probably talk about how much enjoyment I got from that process. And I would probably go out there and show people that even when it doesn't look great, if you can find enjoyment in everything that you do every single day, you end up getting in the place you want, obviously here at Texas A&M. So that's the story, right? That's the story that I would tell. I would then throw media on this, probably media from my first schools where they weren't big SEC schools. And then I would link that media, right, from the early schools that don't have the cool media people that we do, that don't have the access to that. I would link that to some big picture ideas like perseverance, patience. Let's see if I can get another P for alliteration. Perseverance, patience, and I can't find another P. But you link that to those big picture ideas, and all of a sudden there's a brand just in 2 steps of, okay, this guy has been through some stuff. There's some life lessons here. There's some funny stories here. There's some cool media here, looking back on what it was, now looking at what it is. The third thing is engage. Engage the audience. So once you create this media, once you have this story and you connect with these big picture ideas, that's when you engage your audience. That's when you start going out there, finding like-minded people, collaborating with people that share your views, that share your talents, that share your passions. And this engagement part's important because that's when you can start linking up with brands like Red Bull, brands like Nike and Adidas. And if you can use different outlets to reach people, to tell them your story, to show them kind of your ideas, now you go from this small social media presence, not a lot of followers, to all of a sudden you're engaging with people, you're enlightening people, you're sharing your story, you're making the world a better place. And the nice thing that comes out of this is through engagement comes notoriety. And again, this isn't for everybody. Not everybody wants to be a social media superstar. But through notoriety, you can make some money and you can be a little famous, which some people really want. And all you have to do is be obviously yourself, but you have to be true to your story. You have to convey your story in an interesting way. So if we go back just a couple slides here before I get to this conclusion, these pictures here of the Red Bull team and the Red Bull people, that tells the Red Bull story without even knowing anything about Red Bull. You see Red Bull, you see the bull, that Red Bull, great name. You know kind of what you're getting yourself into. So the idea is when you go to buy the product, you're locked into, okay, I know I'm getting a drink that's going to allow me to reach these heights that these guys did. Same thing with your personal brand. You're not peddling a product because it's about you. But when people click on your Instagram, when people click on your TikTok or your Twitter or whatever, they are going to know without even looking at anything you've posted, they are going to know what you're about through growing your presence this way. It takes a lot of self-reflection. Then it takes a lot of work about how to convey who you are to other people, which is not the easiest thing to do. And then all you have to do is engage and talk to people, figure out what they're, figure out their story, relate to them, and you can create a real good presence that way on social media, which is obviously very powerful. So to conclude real quick, social media has exploded into a tool for people to grow their brands and to really tell their story is the big thing. And it's granted people greater access to outreach. It's granted people greater access to obviously notoriety, some fame, some cash. But the biggest thing is it's allowed people to really express themselves in this very positive, very uplifting manner. And before social media, that never could have happened. So it's a tool to be used and it's a very positive one. I want to thank you guys for listening today. Get Stop recording. How do you stop recording?